Once again, welcome everyone to an amazing panel we have for you today on nonprofit education and arts. On behalf of the Career Development Office, we'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Nataly Robalino. I am a career coach in the Career Development Office. And before we get started, before we get to introduce this amazing panel of rock stars, I'm just going to kind of go over a brief overview of what to expect today. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to introduce myself, welcome you, and talk about the CDO, the Career Development Office. And then I'm going to allow each of our panelists to share a little bit about themselves before we go into the Q&A portion. I have some great questions to get started, but please, if you have something you want to ask our panel, please use the Q&A feature, and I will try to get to all the questions throughout this session today. But once again, I'm Nataly Robalino, career coach in the Career Development Office. I've been at the School of Management for 13 years. Spent most of my time in the Career Development Office, but did spend about a little over a year in what the office used to be called Community and Inclusion, what is Office of Inclusion and Diversity today, where I really helped manage a lot of the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging initiatives across all our stakeholders. That's current students, prospective students, and our alums. But I missed the career office so much. I came back as a coach. I've been a career coach for the past 8 years, helping all students navigate their job search throughout their entire time here. We start working with students in early summer, all the way through negotiations and even beyond. We have coaches here that work with even our alums. So we are comprised of two main teams within the Career Development Office. Coaching, the coaches, we work with all students through all degree programs, MBAs, asset management, master and advanced. There's so many I can't remember now, but there's all students throughout their entire time here through their journey. Like I mentioned, whether they're here looking for resume help, cover letter, story, LinkedIn profiles, to reviewing an offer, interview prep, and so on. That's just to name a little. We're also accountability partners, right, throughout their time here at SOM, when, especially to our students that probably resonate more with this panel, that are not embarked on a very structured process. So we are here to kind of help with that strategy. On the other end of the house is our employer partnership team. These employer partnership managers are responsible for managing existing employer relationships, building new ones. You know, we really truly hear our community to see what employers are I guess on the list, right? So that team really helps kind of flourish that relationship. Whether they're doing structured recruiting activities on campus, or just posting a job, or just wanting to get to know our talent profiles. They are divided up by industry. So we do have specific employer partnership managers that are responsible for the nonprofit education and arts. So that is our team. That's the CDO. We do have an operations team that really focuses on the back end. It really kind of helps the entire office run smoothly. So we are very grateful for them. So that's the CDO. So let's learn a little bit about our panel. So Margaret, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Margaret. I use she, her pronouns. I was in the blue cohort my first year and also second year. Before School of Management, I started on the trading floor in finance for 2 years. Then I led growth initiatives at a startup. And I knew I wanted to pivot to social impact. So Yale School of Management was my top choice for business schools. Really excited to be here. This past summer, I was at the Rockefeller Foundation on their digital team. And after SOM, I am currently exploring, nonprofit foundation, nonprofit consulting space, but very much want to stay within that general arena.
Thank you, Margaret. What school did you go to before SOM, your undergrad?
Good question. Northwestern University, and I majored in math and economics.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret. Hannah.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah. I was also in the blue cohort, and spoiler alert, Jordan was also in the blue cohort. So you're just having strong representation from blue cohort today. I'm from the East Coast. I went to school at Wesleyan University, studied political science. So just down the road in Connecticut. And before SOM, I was running a country program for a not-for-profit in Kigali, Rwanda, focused on youth unemployment.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. Jordan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Vega. my family lives on Maui, and a big part of my childhood was also in the Bay Area, California. Um, I guess as an introduction, I just want to just share a little bit of a story of my experience at SOM. During orientation was when the Lahaina fires and the Kula fires happened. And so it was really disorienting, but I was introducing myself to all my classmates, but at the same time going home and calling my mom to see if she was okay. And so something that really put me together and really helped me during this time was the SOM community. I think because a lot of our classmates are so passionate about social impact, that kind of attracts the compassionate people. And I really got to lean on a lot of friends during that time that I just met. So I just wanted to share that a little bit of my background. I went to UCLA for undergrad, studying economics and public health. Before SOM, I was in consulting at Deloitte Consulting's commercial strategy practice. And towards the end of my time at Deloitte, pivoting towards the purpose office, which is Deloitte's social impact arm. And I'm gratefully sponsored by Deloitte Consulting. So planning to go back and help out the climate practice when I return.
Thank you all. Amazing story, Jordan. Thank you so much for sharing that. That had to be difficult, but so glad that you found comfort in your community. So thank you for sharing that. A question for all three of you. Why did you choose Yale SOM? Margaret, I'm gonna start with you again.
Yeah, for sure. So as I shared a little bit, I had come from a for-profit background, and I really was looking for somewhere where I could apply my business school, or I guess like business skills in a more impactful way. So as soon as I came upon the Yale School of Management website, this must have been like 5 years ago when I was first thinking about business school and even deciding whether to go, I think I was like, oh, this is really exciting and, really speaks to what I'm trying to do. And so that's what initially drew me to the program. After I started applying, coming on campus to interview, I just felt the warmth of the community and how it really did stand out from other business schools in that way. And even after I got accepted, having all the people reach out, I just felt like it was like a very warm hug in a way, and it just felt right.
Thanks, Margaret. Hannah, why did you come to SOM?
Yeah, so like I said, I come from a nonprofit background. I like business school was not on my radar at all. And the first time I heard about business school was from an SOM alum who I was working with. And I just like really thought this person was smart and doing interesting things. And then for the next few years, I kept meeting different SOM alum in the professional space with different partner organizations. In East Africa and also in the US. And so I was just like increasingly convinced that I wanted to be where these people had been, and they had great things to say about the school. So when it came time to figure out where to apply, SOM was like a no-brainer. And so I really have to credit the alumni community for why I'm here.
They can be very convincing. And Jordan, last but not least, why did you come to
Echoing Hannah, I worked with a bunch of alumni from SOM at my time at Deloitte, and they've all been really lovely. I really admired their leadership. So that was my introduction. And then I also wanted to go to a smaller school. Attending UCLA and a large institution was really great, but I wanted to kind of experience more intimate setting. And I actually had the opportunity to go to New Haven in person for my interview. And during that time was when the leaves were red and the fall was just so beautiful. And I had never experienced that growing up on the West Coast my whole life. So I think that visit really solidified, and feeling the culture really solidified my decision to want to come here.
Great, thank you all. I'm gonna kind of skip into your summer. I know some of you did mention what you did during the summer, but I'd love to dive a little deeper. What did you do this past summer? How did you navigate your internship recruiting process? And then we can kind of end off with what is your full-time focus? Hannah, would you just like to start?
Cool. Yeah, this summer I interned at a social impact consulting firm. It's a really small firm based in New York that builds technology solutions for social impact organizations, primarily in the women's reproductive health care space, which is an issue I'm really passionate about. I wanted to get some experience in more of like the social enterprise and for-profit world. And so I was helping to manage a project of product development that we were looking to pitch impact investors for at the end of the summer. So that was super interesting and really learned a lot from being in the room with impact investment funds to understand what they care about, what questions they ask, and how widely they differ in what they care about. So it was a really useful experience. In terms of my search process, I think you sort of alluded to this in the beginning, Nataly, that it's an unstructured process, or it was for me. So it was a lot of just talking to people in my own personal and professional network, reaching out to alum and talking to them and sort of cobbling together different potential ideas. Ultimately, why I decided on this firm was that I really wanted a small team where I would get sort of visibility across lots of different aspects of the business, and also like get to be in the room in some of these discussions and decisions. And so I thought that was really valuable for me. And then in terms of career goals, yeah, SOM is so interesting. It's a blessing and a curse because you're exposed to so many different options, particularly in the impact space, about how you can go about that. And a lot of the classes and professors have actually changed how I thought about, where I might fit in. So I'm still sorting this out, but right now I'm thinking about moving more towards a strategic management of nonprofits and social enterprises right now.
Great, thank you. Margaret, can you tell us a little bit more about your summer, the process that you went through to retrieve that internship, and your full-time focus?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first came onto campus, I was very new to the social impact space. So I set up as many chats as I could with people, largely second years, whether they did like nonprofits or foundations, nonprofit consulting, impact investing, because I was like, I just need to figure out what I'm interested in, and it's such a large space. So that, and then the fall, I worked a lot with career coaches at the CDO, Mary, Kate, and Rachel. Were really, I feel like once you find people who you like, you just kind of like keep going back. Although Nataly, you seem great, so maybe I'll set something up with you after. But yeah, they really helped me navigate the space. And whether it's like making a list of companies or nonprofits or foundations that I should learn more about, or suggesting people to reach out to. So that was a huge help. And then by the time winter, spring came around, I think that's when I started applying. But it was super, super helpful for me to have had those conversations in the fall, because I think coming in as a complete newcomer, being able to draw on the experiences of the second year students and the alum of the school, I think really helps me speak a lot better to why I was interested in the internship and what I could bring.
Sure, thank you, Margaret. And Jordan.
Yes, so this summer I had the great honor and privilege of going back home to Maui and helping a nonprofit out called Maui Economic Opportunity. How I got this internship was I reached out to a bunch of nonprofits on the island because given that I'm a sponsored student, I had some freedom to do what I wanted this summer. So I reached out to a bunch of executive directors and got back to Maui Economic Opportunity. Luckily, I was also benefiting from the Internship Fund. So this internship was unpaid. And because, as you can imagine, nonprofits don't have the extra reserves to think that a summer intern is just going to pop up. So the internship fund actually helped me pay rent here in New Haven and provided me some living stipend to, live in the summer. Because it's unstructured, I actually worked with the chief administrative officer to really flush out my role. I asked to rotate through the different departments because I wanted to see what the inner workings of a large nonprofit on the island is like. So I got to rotate through, community services, supporting the fire survivors, to transportation, where like they manage buses that allow people to go to their medical appointments, preschools, youth development, the business development center. So I had such a varied experience this summer, and it was really fun because part of the perk of it being unstructured is you can define your own roles. And then I even like a fun little thing I did also was I taught ChatGPT to senior citizens in my community. We call them Kapuna. So that's another fun thing, bringing learnings from Yale, teaching senior citizens how to make recipes with ChatGPT, write an email, It was really fun summer. And then in terms of full-time plans, I plan to go back to Deloitte. I signed my return offer for the Los Angeles office. And recently, my mentor became Deloitte's chief sustainability officer in the Deloitte US. And so I had a catch-up call with her last month, and she offered me to be her chief of staff when I come back. So thank you. So I'm hoping to do that when I return.
Amazing, Jordan. What a rewarding summer you've had. And then something that you said really resonates with me, especially when working with students on this unstructured path, right? I think it could be sound scary because you see the structured path, but what rewarding experience you had by being able to really flesh out your role and get exposure to certain areas that you probably could not have had if you were on this structured pathway. So, and congratulations on that new experience that you'll have after graduation. Yay.
Thanks, Natalie.
Amazing. So now that you've kind of gone through your first year, you're embarked onto your second year, can you talk about career resources that you have found most helpful during your time, during your first year and kind of helping you? I know, Hannah, you mentioned networking with your personal network, which I want to kind of dive into that as well. So can you talk more about how you navigated and what career resources you found the most useful? Hannah, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I think, personal professional networks, that's an obvious one. But specific to SOM, again, I would go back to the alumni network. And this is specific to me and what I was looking for. I was really like seeking to understand what different people's roles looked like as I sort of sussed out what's the path that I wanted to choose. And so I found the alumni network to be really helpful in that respect, just like having candid conversations about their day-to-day work and responsibilities and their own career trajectory. I think the CDO is incredibly useful, like if you know where you want to go, and they will help you chart a path to get there. And I think, like Margaret said, like helping you bounce off different ideas, and as an accountability partner too. And then actually the surprise, like the nice surprise that I've experienced in my second year was how helpful both classes and professors have been in thinking through the career search. So it's funny, actually, all three of us are in a class called Modern Philanthropy, where we talk a lot about different concepts, both related to social impact organizations and foundations and giving, that have made me think a lot about the type of work I want to do after school. And both professors there are really open to having those conversations as well. So I think I didn't expect professors to be so accessible and frankly helpful, but I've really found that to be the case this year.
Awesome. Jordan, what career resources have you enjoyed?
So, career resources. So long term, I really think that I will be involved with the social sector. A club that Margaret and I co-lead is called the Nonprofit Boards Fellow Club. And we get to be on the board of a local nonprofit in New Haven for a year and a half. So it's a really rare opportunity to get exposure to what a board looks like and how it governs the strategic direction of a nonprofit. I think I've learned a lot from that. I've got to meet a lot of people through that opportunity and to really assess where in the social sector I kind of want to fit in. And then another thing in terms of like kind of informal career resource is the student body. In your second year, you get to like have a bunch of electives at other schools, and a lot of people from other grad schools actually attend your class. So Margaret and I are in a nonprofit strategy class, and behind me is a bassoonist in the School of Music. To my right is the drama school people. At the front is the doctors, the public health people. YSC sits on the far left. And so like, I think it was really fun to just hear everybody's perspective and get the opportunity to talk with them. Because ultimately I'd love to be in a nonprofit that's very comprehensive and broad. So getting all of their perspectives has been really interesting to inform my career decisions.
I love that. I am going to echo the student body, not only here at SOM, but across all of Yale. I think that we are a great support system. So amazing. And Margaret, anything else to add about career resources that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, for sure. I will say along the same lines, I really loved the who went where documents when I first got to campus. And so for those of you who don't know, it's a Excel sheet that shows who went where for their internship as well as their full time. And so for me, that kind of helped me understand like, I don't know, just like get a lay of the land. And then from there, I will say both the School of Management and broader Yale network has been super, super helpful and welcoming and open to talking, even on a cold email. So I think I have close to a 100% response rate on cold emails, which I thought was kind of incredible as I was like looking to learn about the space. So I definitely feel like the at yale.edu email address that you get as part of this is really powerful. And I feel super lucky that so many people were willing to answer my email and take 30 minutes out of their day to just tell me about what they do.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Jordan, I want to just come back to you quickly before I go to the Q&A questions. You mentioned something about the Internship Fund. Can you expand a little bit about what that is and who gets that and how this is helpful? I think that's really helpful, useful for folks who are attending this call to really understand the support that you have.
Yes. Hannah or Margaret, did you benefit from the internship fund at all too?
I did.
Okay, so Hannah can also speak to it.
Perfect.
Feel free to chime in and add color, Hannah, after. But so the internship fund is a really cool chance where it's a club and campus run by first years, and they crowdfund money from different sources to provide living stipends to students who are pursuing unpaid or, under market rates for the summer. Typically in internships in nonprofits, education spaces, or public service. And so the internship fund also has this auction night where they have unique opportunities with professors. One of our professors like sold his vest that is very colorful and has dragons on it. Another professors like offer cocktail nights with students, and the students bid for these experiences. Like somebody even got a private like flight around Connecticut. And so they're very different experiences, which is fun, and all of the proceeds go to the internship fund. So anything else, Hannah? Like maybe like who gets it and what the application is like?
Yeah, and I mean, it'd be useful to have someone from the fund here explain it because obviously we're not part of like the application selection process. I think the only thing I'll add is that I found the fund really useful in my recruiting process because it allowed me to like remove the pressure and in some ways like make bigger asks of potential like internship employers to say like and they tell you to not do this, but I did this, but to say like I don't need funding for the summer. What I'm looking for is like XYZ experience. And I found that to be incredibly powerful with potential employers because then they can just say like yes or no, are they able to offer you that without having to think about the funding. So I think it's a huge asset that SOM offers that I'm not sure if other business schools offer. And I highly recommend it and highly recommend donating to all of the events that Jordan just described.
Agreed. And that internship fund, that big fundraiser is amazing. And even departments like the CDO also offers up I think a free interview room or space during exams with a basket of snacks. I think we really involve our community for this specific initiative. So thank you so much, Jordan and Hannah. So now going into the Q&A, I know some of you have already kind of talked about some courses that you are in together, but can you share some of your favorite courses that are relevant to the social impact space? Anybody who wants to?
Jordan, you should go first. You haven't gone first.
Okay. Let's nonprofit. So I'm in a nonprofit. I'm very and society this semester. I'm in nonprofit strategy, modern philanthropy. I took an inequality and social mobility class that talked about how to measure social mobility and the economics behind it too, how to prove it with data. Next semester, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the impact measurement course. And so I really, for all of these classes, they take very like distinct approaches to quantify impact and to really show how progress can be made pragmatically. And I think that what's been really helpful is that it's just been such a comprehensive curriculum and also the professors really care about the students. One of my favorite professors is Judy Chevalier and Paige McLean. At SOM, you actually get to form relationships with your professors, and that's something that I wasn't really privy to in undergrad. So it's really nice to, have a mentor and a professor and feel like I can reach out to them anytime with any questions I have. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And Margaret, anything to add? Any of your favorite courses you're taking?
Yeah, I'll chime in quickly. I would echo what Jordan said around like there is a wealth of classes in the sort of social impact space that are incredibly useful. So I mentioned one, modern philanthropy. That's like a really useful theoretical approach to how to think about philanthropy. I think the other thing to keep in mind, even for social impact roles, is that some of like the core business classes are incredibly important and useful as well. So I'm in managing small and medium enterprises with AJ Wasserstein this quarter, and we're mostly looking at cases of for-profit industries, but the learning of how you manage a business and how you evaluate it and how you seek funds is all incredibly transferable to running a nonprofit or anything like that. And then the other course I'll say that's been really interesting this semester is I'm taking a course at the law school that's focused on gun violence policy, and it's taught by the former mayor of Hartford. So it's a really like practical, pragmatic approach to how do you tackle a really complex issue like gun violence policy at the city level. So I think access to, like we said before, different classes from different schools with people that have not just the theoretical, but the actual practical experience has been really, really interesting.
Awesome, what a great class. Listen, we talked about courses and some of you talked a little bit about the club involvement, but let's dive a little deeper. Can you talk about any extracurricular activities or clubs or anything you're involved at here at SOM that's related or not related to nonprofit? What's been your favorite experience? I'll open this up to anybody who wants to.
I could start again. I briefly touched on this. I just want to dive a little bit deeper on the Nonprofit Board Fellows Club and paint a picture of what it actually looks like. So I'm on the board of City Seed, which organizes the farmers markets in New Haven. And it's been really cool to be part of this because they also have an incubator program to help local food entrepreneurs start their businesses. So they recently bought a building to kind of renovate into a commercial kitchen to help these local entrepreneurs. And so my job with them has been to kind of help them develop their fundraising campaign, their capital campaign, and also revision how this new building, I guess it's not new, but they need to renovate it. And so the endless possibilities of a building is really such a cool problem and issue to tackle. So that's kind of what a nonprofit board fellow could be like.
Great.
Yeah, I'm on Nonprofit Board Fellows with Jordan, and it's an awesome experience. I had a lot of experience with a grassroots nonprofit in New York City, and so coming here, I really wanted to see how an institutional board would operate. So I'm on the board of the Central Connecticut Coast YMCA, and that's been an incredible experience that I don't think I would have had the opportunity to do otherwise, to see how such a large national organization really like develops impact on like the local level as well. And then the other extracurricular that I really love is Yale Philanthropy Conference. So last year that taught me a lot about what are the issues that people are talking about in philanthropy. It let me meet some of the speakers, which was really awesome. And that really did help my pivot to the space. And then lastly, Yale has a therapy dog named Heidi. So I do her social media. Oh, you can't see, but yeah, those are my three favorite extracurriculars.
That's so good. Now I know who's posting on behalf of Heidi.
Yeah, we have a new video today. You can check it out.
Yay, I will. Hannah, anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll just say something briefly. Last year, SOM launched the Center for Inclusive Growth. And so I was one of the first fellows for that center, which is basically an effort between the school and the city of New Haven to tackle economic development projects and problems in the city. There's really an effort to try to build stronger relationships and leverage the skills and the resources that SOM has to benefit the city. So myself and my partner worked on a project that was focused on how to support small businesses in New Haven and think about what they might need in order to grow into medium-sized businesses. And just that process of getting to meet and understand the strengths and the weaknesses of small businesses in the city, and then also work alongside city officials was really a unique experience. And I felt like much more connected to the city. So I think there's a lot of opportunities like that to, get outside of SOM and actually apply learnings that I think are really valuable.
You guys are all so inspiring. I love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing. Hannah, I'm gonna direct this question for you because I remember you saying, I think during your introduction or earlier in the panel, that an MBA wasn't on your radar. So can you talk about what made you decide to go for an MBA and not another degree in nonprofit or social policy or development? Just curious. There's somebody who's curious about that.
Yeah, sure. I was definitely considering an MPP or something like that. Really what pointed me towards an MBA was one, the alumni, and like really these individuals made a difference in my decision. But then also I thought that an MBA would give me like a much broader range of skills that I did not have at all. Whereas a master's in public policy, I felt like I had almost earned through my nonprofit public policy work for the previous 5 years. And so I felt like it would be too close to the work that I was familiar with and that I was doing already. And with my career goals of wanting to run and manage something one day, I thought an MBA was better aligned with that skill set.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, let me go into another question here in the Q&A. Are there any skills or courses you highlighted on your resume applications that were particularly useful in your interviews and summer positions? Anybody want to take that one?
I think something that I emphasized was, especially when talking to nonprofit leaders to flesh out the internship, was that one of my strengths, I think, is to be a sponge. I think I generally can absorb like a lot of information pretty quickly, and I might not be an expert in anything like right away, but I'm open to learning, and I think I can pick up on things quick. So I think, especially when you're trying to flesh out your own internship roles, emphasizing that you're willing to be an active and curious person on the job is something that really helped, I think, get my internship in the first place.
Thanks, Jordan. And I think something that we do in the CDO that our coaches are always thinking on, when working with students is really highlighting those transferable skills, right? That go across many industries that can strengthen your resume, your application process, and really any industry, aside from the technical and the hard skills. So we really do a good job in trying to uncover what strengths do students bring to the table, regardless of what they're looking to apply for. So that's something that we work with students in the early onset. Anything else to add, Margaret or Hannah, about what you used to, what did you highlight on your resume to strengthen your candidacy for your internship?
I'll just chime in quickly. I did learn a lot of technical and like hard skills in my first year in the MBA. I remember like talking to the guy that eventually hired me for my internship and like telling him that I knew how to do a financial model and a discounted cash flow. And like, then I had to do it in the internship and I had learned it for the first time in the MBA in the core curriculum. So I do think there's value, particularly if you're coming from more of like a nonprofit social impact space or just a space that's like not as directly connected to financials. You can learn a lot in the first year that help you get in the door for internships during the summer.
Sure. All right, let's go into our next question here. Oops, I lost it. Sorry. Oh, what approximate proportion of the student body would you say is social impact oriented? Did you find that at all of your core business classes translated clearly to the nonprofit world? Great question. So quickly, we have our employment data that is very visible to everyone on our site. So take a look at that. It's no secret that the nonprofit is on the smaller scale, compared to the bigger traditional business schools industries. But so you can see kind of the breakdown of industries and functions and spaces that our students go into. Margaret, Hannah, or Jordan, do you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I think while people might not pursue social impact directly right out of graduating SOM, I think it's pretty a significant chunk of our student body is passionate about one cause or the other. And so when we're having lunch conversations or dinner conversations, we tend to talk about, these social issues a little bit during these. And I think it's pretty unique to the Yale SOM culture and community. Anything else to add, Margaret or Hannah, on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have several friends that plan to go into, finance or consulting or tech, more traditional MBA backgrounds or more traditional MBA paths, if you will. But I believe I heard if you look at like our alum 5, 10, 15 years out, a lot of people do it for financial reasons. Whether, just like whether it's paying off loans or whatever their situation is. So I would say like do not get deterred by that data. I've been really, really pleased by, yeah, just like Jordan said, the depth of conversations that I can have. And I will say for the core courses, even something like accounting, we did a case on BMW's decarbonization strategy and how do you account for that. And I think like economics, and I just remember many other classes, I really loved how there's time in the beginning to go over the technicals. And then at the end of every class, there was like a real world application. What does this mean? Broader discussion for what it means for like society and whatnot. So I do think they do a really good job tying it all together. And I've definitely felt really well supported by professors, classmates, and, the general curriculum here.
Thank you. And anecdotally, being at Yale for 13 years, working with many students who are now well into their career as alumni, I've seen that pivot. I've seen that whether it's consulting banking, they're now pivoted back to the more social impact. You're right, Margaret. There's many reasons why people choose a certain career path. So, but we are here as an institution, as a university as a whole, here as a support system for all career trajectories. So thank you all for sharing. This question goes to Margaret and Jordan. How well do you think the Nonprofit Board Fellows Program prepares students for the real world board responsibilities? Does it start as shadowing and then evolve to actual projects and plans?
Yeah, so the way it works is students don't directly just start on the board. So when students are admitted to the club in their first year, the whole fall semester is about training. So you learn about what it's the role of being a board, what are the expectations, legally as well. And then there's trainings on nonprofit accounting, understanding New Haven, which is like to get a better understanding of the local context that you'll be supporting and serving. And I guess other trainings, Margaret, not particularly. We do a bunch of trainings in the fall, winter. And then, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know the ones that I missed.
Yeah, it's we had 4, maybe 5: intro to nonprofit fundraising, introduction to the nonprofit sector, introduction to nonprofit accounting, which was really cool. Understanding New Haven. So yeah, it is very, very comprehensive.
The students are prepared in that sense of getting the general information. And then in January of their first year, that's when they start serving on the board. And it's a real nonprofit on a real board. You're a non-voting member, but essentially the whole experience is generally the same across board members. So you get to know what the strategic decisions are having to be made. Like for example, when I stepped in, they were trying to recruit a new executive director. So I got to see what that's like. And so all of these are definitely transferable in the real world.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, this next question, I'm going to put this out to everyone, but maybe Hannah, you can start us off since you've had a little bit of international experience in the past. So for students who are interested in social impact on an international scale, what has been your experience with students or alumni in this space and courses focused on the global impact projects?
Sure. So yeah, I'm a little bit different. I feel like I'm like coming from the international space back to New Haven, but I think because of that experience, I've been connected to a lot of students that are either interested or planning to go work there after school. I think I forget the statistics, Nataly, you'll probably know, but like 50% of the SOM community is an international passport holder. So it's a really international community, which is amazing. And again, you'll see from like the who went where that a lot of people choose to work internationally after graduation. And particularly if you're interested in the social impact international space and you're coming from SOM, there's like a wealth of well-connected SOM alumni that are in that space that I'd be happy to connect you with. So I think it feels sort of like being a part of like a little club that, you know, we've all been to SOM and we're interested in international social impact. And that's, I think, really helpful. So I feel like the door is very open and people are also very understanding of how overwhelming and like unclear it can be as an American if you're an American pursuing international work. So they're very open to talk and like help support you, even with like a cold email to them. So I found, I'm sure it's, you know, incredibly useful, and I've connected a lot of first year students to my colleagues and other, you know, employment partners back in Rwanda already.
Thank you. Margaret, Jordan, do you have anything else to add on that with I know that, you know, you may not have direct experience, but working with or being in classes with your international counterparts, anything to add?
I will just say, it's really cool that I didn't expect having such a global perspective would be such an important part of the experience. Now I have friends and, you know, they're inviting me to their families and, you know, someone lives in Greece and someone lives in Indonesia and Korea, Japan. So, it's just having friends who live in these different places and, you know, people want to come to Maui. And so, people do family treks sometimes, and it's just been such a fun atmosphere having an international base.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, going just trying to get through some of these questions here. We may have already touched on this, so maybe we can add a different spin to this, but you know, transitioning from a for-profit to a nonprofit career, any advice, anything that the candidates can do before summer, before getting to campus to strengthen that transition? Any advice you have on that?
Yeah, I can speak to this. Some feedback that I got this summer, when I was kind of asking my manager, I was like, why did you choose me out of everyone who applied? Just because I think at first I was like, oh, that's cool. You guys gave it to me, but why? And she said that it was not only the transferable skills that I had demonstrated. So I was like, you know, I was doing a marketing role at the Rockefeller Foundation. And so in my interview and application, I really talked about how I did marketing for a startup and what kinds of like best practices and lessons I could bring over. But then also the demonstrated impact piece. So she was like, we knew that you were interested in the social impact sector because you had so much time volunteering at this nonprofit, because you got involved with the associate board and helped with all these different projects. So I would say if you do have the ability, and you are serious about pivoting, it could be really helpful to find a nonprofit or organization and get involved with that, so that when you come to campus and when you're applying for jobs, you do have that experience to draw from. So people know that there is real intent and like meaning behind you saying that you want to pivot.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret. Hannah or Jordan, anything else to add? All right. Sorry. Okay, so I think we have our last 5 minutes. I think I'm going to ask this kind of closing question to each one of our panelists. What do you wish you knew or wish someone had told you before you started your MBA program here at Yale School of Management? And Jordan, why don't you kick us off?
I'm sorry, Natalie, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. What do you wish that you knew or wish that someone had told you before starting your MBA at the Yale School of Management?
Yes, so a funny answer would be prepare your warm clothing. And growing up in California and Hawaii, I legitimately didn't have any warm clothing. So I think Memorial Day or like Labor Day was when I finally got the thing on sale, and so it was a lifesaver for me in the winter. In terms of um, doing before Yale, I think you're going to be exposed to a lot of opportunities. So you really need to be sure of what you want to get out of the experience. So having, I guess, a month before starting at Yale, I just had a kind of a self like introspective check-in with what I want, were my goals. And because there's so many different opportunities, it's so hard to say no. And so, I want to prioritize strategically of what your goals are and, what will actually help you achieve them.
Great. And Jordan, we've had mild winter, so this is
Not
actually,
mild for me, Natalie.
I know, I get it, but winters in New England have been quite warm compared to in the past. But Hannah, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I would really echo what Jordan said around like trying to know what you're looking to achieve before you get here, just because there are just so many opportunities available to you, and you only have so many hours in the day. And then the other thing I would say is that, particularly if you're coming from a non-traditional background that like I was, I wish someone had said to me that like I think I had a bit of imposter syndrome coming to a business school. And so I wish I had been told that, the perspectives and work experience that I had was equally valuable to, what other people were bringing to the school. And I think SOM does a really great job of like trying to balance and make sure that each class has a breadth of different professional experience, but particularly in the core curriculum when you're focused on learning accounting and sourcing and managing funds, it can feel I felt a little bit out of my depth. But I think just like being reassured that you're there for a reason and to provide this different perspective, I think would be really helpful.
Thanks, Hannah. And Margaret.
Yeah, funny enough, I've stayed in touch with the person who reached out to welcome me to School of Management when I first got in. He's been really wonderful. His name is Liam. And so I remember when I first started School of Management in the fall last year, I was like, what advice do you have for me? And I always remember what he said, which is view every opportunity as hypothesis testing. And I thought that was a very interesting way of looking at it because, like Jordan and Hannah shared, there are so many things that you can do. And so he was like, when you're choosing extracurriculars, what hypotheses are you trying to test? And so for me, it was with the Yale Philanthropy Conference, do I like this sector? Or with nonprofit board fellows, would I want to serve, on a high level at a nonprofit? And so that really helped me narrow down how I wanted to spend my time. Same with classes and same with the summer. He was saying, like the summer is such a golden opportunity to try something that you can either say like, yeah, I love this, or no, I hate this. And that's totally fine because I have another, it's a free summer to test whatever you want. And so I thought long and hard about like, not only why am I here, but what am I trying to test? Just because being here gives you so many opportunities. And I guess like, I want to say there's like a lot of mini experiments you can do to try and fail or succeed and learn a ton about yourself from here. So it's just been like a really great testing ground. And I think that mindset has kind of helped me navigate this space.
Great. Thank you so much to our amazing panel, Margaret, Hannah, and Jordan, for sharing your experiences, your advice, your wisdom. I hope that you all out there have enjoyed our panel today, and we hope to see you soon. Enjoy, everyone. Have a good day.